Welcome, everyone. This is AllMinusOne. I'm Bill. What's up? This lighting looks really bad to me. Let me check something real quick. That looks a little bit better. I don't know why. I had already messed with that, and maybe the lighting outside changed some. Best intro. Why, thank you, gentlemen. I spent a long time on that. Had the idea back in the spring and took me forever to get around to doing it. But that's what happens when you're yeeted for like, well, I wasn't yeeted, but I had to take a break for like 6 weeks. So that was one of the things that I did. I'm glad everyone enjoys it. Although I'm using copyrighted materials there, the music. It is what it is. So, guys, I said over on the Ends Just for the Memes that I would be streaming Sunday, and I, being me, never knowing what day of the week it is, or uh, calendar holidays or things coming up. I had no clue that the Super Bowl was coming up, and I have other obligations. So streaming today, and probably going to stream for maybe over an hour, 2 hours max. Going to watch UFC later on tonight with friends. So I can't stream on here forever. But the big thing that I wanted to talk about today was cultural stuff. Because last week I wanted to get into it and I didn't really have time. I ran my mouth far too long about the convoy. And I do want to talk about the convoy today, but I'm going to put it at the back end. And what I want to talk about is media portrayal and the portrayal given by the governments. Because we all know that there was a Nazi swastika and Confederate flags flown, and that this is a group of hate, right? Yet I found no evidence. I found one singular picture. I've yet to have the time because I would have done this yesterday, but I went into work early yesterday, 3 hours early. So I haven't had the time to do this, but I'll do a live on air, and we'll do a reverse image search and see if the one photo of a swastika is stock or not. But before we get into that, York says it's not the lighting, it's the subject. Okay. Before we get into that, let's do some let's talk about some cultural things. So I haven't talked about that, I think, specifically in a while. And what I want to talk about is the death of the West and why it's in decline. And one of the major reasons that it's in decline is because we are out of balance as a people in any numerous amount of ways. One of the most important ways that we are out of balance, of course, is amongst the sexes, or the genders. And mind you, gender has always, people will make the argument on the right that it's a linguistical thing. No. Yes, it's linguistical, but why? Why is it linguistical? Because it has to do with the nature of behavior, of the normative behavior, that is, of the sex. And I've taken all the sociology and psychology classes in the past, and I've talked to plenty of lefties, and I know what they say. Yeah, normative. Yes, normative, meaning that about 10, maybe 20% of the population doesn't fit into that typical category. That you can't mold your whole society on the 20% of the fringe on either side. That's insane. Leftists wish to destroy all categories so that there is no means to judge any difference between any other person. They want equality for all, which is quite possibly the worst thing that we could ever do for humanity, because if all are equal, all are equally worthless. See, we live in an unequal world where, because of our inequality, if we do not desire power, if we desire, the goodness, righteousness, then we have to work together and help each other out. Cooperation is a necessity for survival. You can survive on your own, but I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot harder than if you have people supporting you. It's also a necessity for your mental health. And in our atomized, individualized, hyper-individualized society, we don't have very good mental health anymore. Now, do we? We have an identity crisis. So what do people do? They latch on to cultic ideas and they go with the groupthink. They talk to these folks who have all the answers. Racisms is my answer. And white supreme pizzas, right? This is absurd. And I have friends, old friends that I've literally had the conversation with where they've told me, of course it's racism. Racism's the problem of everything. No. You are operating on on a scale of 1 to 10, you're operating at a 2 of intellectual ability when you say stupid things like that. Tribalism is a huge part of it. But tribalism manifests in numerous ways. But what I've seen and what I've continued to talk about here, most importantly, is the weakening of men. You see, because men have to lead. They have to. It's in their nature. It is their driving nature to lead, to protect, to fix, to make, to create. This is what men do. Are there bad men? Of course. Are there men that have, lust for power and wish to do evil things and control everyone? Of course. Just like there are bad women who wish to do all the same. Again, that is probably the fringe and minority of most folks. And we cannot base our society on something that isn't normative. And it doesn't mean that the norm needs to be strictly socially enforced either. It just means that we don't need to be making special exceptions for those who are on the fringes. We don't need to be making, and when I mean special exceptions, I don't mean like, treat everybody equally, that kind of thing. I mean protective classes, special rules, like the society we live in today, where if you have the proper left-wing politics, you are completely protected from scrutiny, and you may do whatever you wish. Maybe now and again you might take a licking or whatever, but generally speaking, you're protected. So, what this all comes down to is a state of or a society that is in a state of not understanding its origins, who it is, because it's been gaslit by leftists, communists who literally wish to do that. They know that you're not a blank slate. And what they know is they need to break everything down in society, including your parents, including grooming your children. That's no joke. There's decades of writings from communists and speeches and whatever, and you can find it. Or do as I suggest and go check out someone like James Lindsay, because it makes it easier for you. We all have limited time in this world, you know. I would love to be streaming a lot more, but right now I have another priority, and I'm trying to get things together. In fact, I'm talking to my wife about putting together a business plan and doing some other stuff for some future some future investments, some future projects I would like to do, including getting the land, having a sustainable business, and having some survival training and martial arts and farming and leadership training and all these different things together, so that we can basically be sustained on our own. So, in any case, hey Matt, what's up? Supreme pizza is an abomination. Pepperoni, bacon, pineapple, and black olives. Ooh, pineapple on the pizza. That's controversial. I never mind it, but controversial. My buddy used to call for the Marines, used to call Supreme Pizza's garbage pail. And mind you, if you go to Pizza Hut, that's kind of what it looks like. In any case, like they just dumped the trash can on it, right? In any case, here we have James Lindsay, in New Discourses, and he's going to talk about critical education and culturally relevant pedagogy. I'm not going to play much of this, only because it's almost 3 hours long. But just the very beginning of it, and you guys can get a sense of it if you're not watching his stuff. But even if you were, or you are aware of these things, there are people who are not. And so you need to know where the resources are so that you can then connect with those folks and send them the proper information. That is, if they're willing to listen. Look, guys, don't waste your time on your family members or your friends who are just not going to listen to you. Don't cast your pearls before swine. Let them come around. They will fall on their face. There's no point in creating tension and arguments and bad emotions over basically bullheadishness and arrogance, because that's what it comes down to. People not wanting to admit that they're wrong. So I'm going to mute myself, and then we're going to play this video. You guys let me know how the volume is doing.
friends. Welcome back to the New Discourses podcast. I'm James Lindsay. I'm doing this huge series on critical education theory, also known as critical pedagogy. Pedagogy being a theory of education. And I'm trying to break it down for you, and you will have realized that if I take a couple of diversions from this project, this is going to continue. But this is actually a weird kind of diversion, kind of like the Groomer School series that I did, which, by the way, if you care about what's going on in education, you want to know what's going on in education, you need to go listen to the Groomer Schools. What I've been doing for the mainstay series is to allegedly follow this book, and then the books it recommends to go through, or whatever, although we're definitely probably going to hit on him a little bit here. I tried to read a book about this, and it was the craziest thing I've ever read.
Sorry, guys. I will get this to where he's really actually starting.
I usually bail on states or most of the free countries of the West now.
There we go.
That would reach over them. That's called multicultural education, and but there are other things. There's culturally responsive teaching. And there is also the relevant pedagogy here. And she also in that same year wrote Toward a Critical Race Theory of Education. Not adequate because I need to get this.
This is what happens when you get me working. I don't have time to work on the show. So, yeah, I'm going to go to that 2-minute mark and we'll start it there. So sorry about that, guys. In any case, listen up because he's going to talk about this critical pedagogy and critical race theory stuff and how it gets introduced. And James has been talking about, a lot lately about the grooming, and it's real, and it's not some right-wing conspiracy theory. It's real. It's always been real. They've always talked about it. Plato talked about it 2,000 years ago. So let's not be sophist here and pretend like that this doesn't exist.
Understand the old stuff, but I need people to have points of contact and to be able to stand up and start doing something useful. And the other thing I need is for myself to have an answer to the questions that I keep getting. Do you have any resources about culturally relevant teaching? No, I don't. So I better make one. Do you have any resources about social emotional learning? No, I don't. So I better make one. And the idea that it's probably going to take me till freaking June to make one, it being January right now, is not adequate because I, A, need to get this stuff out for people because they clearly need it, and B, don't want to keep getting asked that freaking question with no answer and say, oh, I'm going to get to one. So what we're going to do for this episode of the podcast, rather than diving back into, say, Paulo Freire or whatever, although we're definitely probably going to hit on him a little bit here and there. So if you're keeping up with the rest of the series, you'll want to know that. What we're going to do here is we're going to read a paper from 1995 called Toward a Theory of Culturally Relevant Pedagogy by Gloria Ladson Billings from the University of Wisconsin at Madison. Now, I have to clarify, this is 1995, Gloria Ladson Billings. Also in 1995, she's got Toward a Theory of Culturally Relevant Pedagogy here, and she also in that same year wrote Toward a Critical Race Theory of Education. So you can kind of start to place what's going on in Gloria's head. This paper, Toward a Theory of Culturally Relevant Pedagogy, appears in the American Educational Research Journal. Again, fall 1995. You can look it up if you want to read it for yourself or read along. And before I begin diving into the paper, which isn't super long, it's kind of long. Before I start diving into the paper, what I want to communicate is that there's this kind of like, this is the first paper really to outline a culturally relevant pedagogy, or what you would now hear as culturally relevant teaching, which is CRT, which isn't critical race theory technically, but yes, it does contain critical race theory. Yes, it does. That's how they're going to analyze the cultures as being structurally determined and so on. And we can talk about that as much as anybody ever wants. But there are other things. There's culturally responsive teaching. And there is also this other thing. I tried to read a book about this, and it was the craziest thing I've ever read. And I made it like 3 chapters, and I was just too nuts. I'm out. And I don't usually bail on reading this stuff. But I was like, nobody on earth could possibly be doing this, which of course is definitely going to not be true. And it's going to be a big problem. And it's probably happening all over the country. And I'll have to deal with it sooner or later. But that's called culturally sustaining teaching or culturally sustaining pedagogy. And the goal there is to sustain cultures as structurally determined objects that therefore have to be understood through critical theories that tie cultures to other identities like races or like gender identities or whatever, and to say that they have gay culture or trans culture or black culture, that those can be expressed authentically through these critical theories, but that also these cultures have to be sustained and protected in what they are and made politically active as such.
All right. So these cultures. Now, we have a term that's been going around for a long time that you're all familiar with, and that is cultural relativism, right? Just like moral relativism, cultural relativism is the idea that no culture is better than the other. And it is based out of moral relativism. It is based in the idea that there is no right or wrong. And if that is the case, as I always say, just very simply put, I don't need to elaborate on this, then nothing matters but force. Nothing. Because if I want it, then it is morally right that I can take it because I can take it. And morals are relative, right? And this goes to an old Aristotelian mindset, or even, before that, where ancient people thought that inferior folks were bound to be slaves. And this is part of the later belief and justification for slavery. As it picked back up, slavery has always existed until, well, it still exists today, but I mean, until recently in the Western worlds, still exists in the Western worlds today. In fact, we have slavery going on every single day through our southern border. But you talk to a lefty about that, they don't care. They only talk about the slavery that happened, 150 years ago. So it's absurd. But yeah. Anyways, this notion is that those in power are the ones who get to dictate the culture. And so it is Big Brother telling you what is good, what is right, and what is true. And people love this. People love this because, again, we live in a very stripped down, corrupt, and infantile society. And this is on every level. And I know it's on every level because I interact with people all the time. I always have. I'm a very kind of social person. I, talk to people um, while I'm out, while I'm around. I'm very curious, and there is, and we know what the survey numbers are too. Generally speaking, we can go to the old political tribe survey from a few years back, but I'm sure the data is slightly skewed or changed since that was done, because more and more people have been becoming aware and waking up since the coup. However, are they also recruiting more people for the left, as people are fearful and scared to have these lockdowns and mandates and whatever else lifted? I played a video clip on the Justify the Memes about the trucker convoy in Canada. And right now there's convoys building up in the US. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. This will end everything if we can hold the line. And I do thank God that people finally figured out a way to hold the government accountable and to do it peacefully. Now, I'm waiting for the leftists to come out and start vandalizing the truckers. I'm surprised that they haven't. Perhaps they realize that would be a bad look because they're very, very cognitive of their optics. That's why they don't like to be filmed. They don't give interviews, that kind of stuff. Even though they go out and do stupid, crazy things, attack people, murder people, beat them up, whatever. As far as they can, they try to control their optics, and they do know that they're living a lie. These people actually know what they're doing. They know they're being manipulative. They smile about it. They get off on it. That's why this is all about power. These are people who aren't well developed. They usually have bad family lives. And don't get me wrong, that's not a death sentence for you. That doesn't doom you to anything. Many people have bad family lives and turn out to be great people. But they have bad family lives, bad relationships, bad everything. And so they form their little weird groups where they can gain power and control, and they can manipulate people. Force and violence and control is always based on an insecurity, folks. You aren't worried about allowing someone to have free will if you are secure in yourself or in your ability to do things, or the people around you to help support you or bail you out when you're in trouble. You just don't. But you know what? If you're afraid of all those things, if you're completely insecure, if you're, still a child, basically, if you need mommy and daddy to watch your back, of course you're going to call for more government. Of course you're going to call for more intervention. We have grown adults today that want the government to raise their children for them. It's a sickening thing. Out in California, I'm pretty sure the state is claiming that the children are their own, like I said, much like Plato's Republic. And again, I doing this in the summer here. I'll be doing this for 2 years now. I've been talking about that from the beginning of the show. I've been talking about it for years, actually, but haven't been doing streaming for that long, or YouTube, or video platforming junk, whatever. But this is all about convincing, when it comes to this relativism, convincing the masses that there is no truth, there is no reality, and that the only thing that they can get the truth and reality from is the institutions. And we call that being institutionalized. I'm sure you've all seen The Shawshank Redemption. If you haven't, it's a great movie. You should go see it. But, they talk about that being institutionalized. I know guys that are institutionalized. You don't work in a jail and not see that. You absolutely do. These people live their lives in jail. It's part of how they live. It's fine with them. It's a normal walk in the park. It's just business as usual. And going down to the welfare office, going down to see your social worker, whatever it is that you are getting from the government, instead of doing for yourself, or getting directly from those who would love you and support or your community, because they believe in you and your project. Because the difference there is the difference between who will donate and volunteer their time or money versus the government saying, those people are going to give me their money and I'm going to decide what their money is going to be spent on. And I picked you as the winner. And government shouldn't be in the business of picking winners and losers. If it works, I could be your future boss. Maybe. I'll talk to you about York, when you move down this way. I'll talk to you about what I'm looking at doing. Joshua Ham has some ideas, although I haven't talked to Joshua in a while. But I want to build something sustainable and with communities, and I think I might be able to get the fundraising for actually doing what I want to do. It's just going to take some time. So it would be partially me putting my own money in, of course, and then getting other investors and kind of starting a business, which is the idea. But anyways, I don't want to get too sidetracked from stuff I'm talking about right now. But either way, anyway, I want to get off, more or less off grid, kind of sustainable in the next 5 years, really right now. But 2025 is my goal, maybe 26. So it'd be about 4 years, 4 to 5 years. And I'm just going to need a bigger house soon enough anyways, because I got a little place, and my wife and I are probably going to start having more babies here in another year or so. I don't even know if we're going to wait that long, maybe another 6 months. How old's my daughter now? 8 months. Oh, it'll be longer than 6 months. It'd probably be another 8 months. Yeah. Anyways, let's hit play. Listen a little bit more of this, and I have a few other things.
So it's really, it turns out, like I said, I'd have to look up what book it is again. I don't even remember. I read like the first 3 chapters and I was like, holy crap, this is nuts. So culturally sustaining pedagogy, culturally relevant pedagogy, or teaching in place of pedagogy. And I don't remember what the other one was, culturally responsive. So they're going to be responding. These all kind of fall in this kind of umbrella that would reach over them that's called multicultural education. And so we have to pause for a moment to talk about multiculturalism so you can know what this is all about. And I kind of just told you. Multiculturalism is a hugely failed project. It's probably also a communist project, but I'm not 100% sure about that. The idea with multiculturalism is that in a pluralistic society, say like the United States or most of the free countries of the West now, that you are going to have a variety of cultures. So rather than having like this overarching American culture, and if you happen to say have come from Somalia, that you still do your Somalian things, you still cook and eat, and maybe even share Somali food, and you do some of your traditions, and you have your religion. This is really the pluralistic e pluribus unum idea of America. Multiculturalism is something different. It's that the cultures themselves should not have any pressure put on them to change. So,
all right, very important again. Multiculturalism is not pluralism. Pluralism works, always has always existed in civilizations. You have people that have their own ethnic identities and cultures that go along with that identity, and they have certain traditions that they pass down. We see this in various church groups, right? We see this in various cultures who came to the United States years ago of European descent, but the overarching belief and view was, of course, American liberty. Now, there was a change. There was a change, and this can be historically traced. There were arguments in the early 1880s about allowing German immigrants into the United States, some of the first immigrants that were not from the British Isles or, Amsterdam or the Netherlands, basically. The majority of our stock here in the United States were from England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. And then they started allowing some Germans in. And there was a debate about this because Germans historically have a more collectivist mindset than the English. And so they debated about those people and allowing too many of them in to change the politics of the nation because they wouldn't understand the cultural history and ethos of those of the British Isles. And later, in the 1880s, 1890s, and until like the early progressive era, we started allowing people from Eastern Europe in and from Southern Europe, which really wasn't that common before. And of course, we know that there is a high density population of Italian immigrants, Italians and Sicilians, and New York and New Jersey. That was a big part of that, right? And that growth. They had a different mindset, different kind of belief. And that changed the politics there. So this does happen. This idea that any sort of replacement theory is bunk. I mean, why do you think there are numerous reasons why? I usually point to they actually want to depopulate the southern hemisphere, and that's 100% true. They do not talk about sustainability projects anywhere else. In those nations, they only talk about urban centers. They want the forested natural resource areas to be left alone unless they wish to mine them. They want to move people away from there and collect everyone in cities where they can better control them. But the other part of this, like the famous quote from Trudeau. Sorry, I had a little brain fart there. I'm trying to see if I can find the picture because I know I had it. Hey, I still got my memes up. Look at that. I don't even close out the folder yet. So, yeah, where's it at? There we go. So the very concept of a nation founded by European settlers is offensive to me. Old stock white Canadians are an unpleasant relic and quite frankly replaceable and we will replace them. Why did Trudeau say this? Why is this the mindset of the globalist aside from getting the southern hemisphere depopulated to get people to the northern hemisphere where there's far more infrastructure? Why? Because the old white stock European has more craving for liberty than the people from those other nations. They don't understand. They don't have the same cultural and historical freedoms that we have and the richness of liberty that we came up with, that we came from. You know, they don't have a Magna Carta. They can't trace their lineage back to Rome and the Greeks. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that those people were fully free either, but that is where these ideas began and came from and passed down. And our culture is Roman. It is. European culture is Roman. But Rome was a pluralistic society. So there were other cultural differences in between them. But this is about getting rid of people who have those mindsets of liberty and freedom and know this. This is why we have to gaslight everyone and say, well, Christopher Columbus was a horrible man because the guy who didn't like him, who took over the colonies like 30 years later, wrote bad things about him, and the bad things that he actually wrote weren't that bad. Yet there are no accounts of Christopher Columbus doing anything bad. He said he would chop off the hands of his men if they touched the natives. You think that? I mean, I'm not all for chopping off hands, but he wasn't chopping off native hands. He was going to punish his own men. He was protecting them. He said that they were good, fit people, seemingly ready to be able to take on the religion of peace, that is Christ, Christianity. He said they would make good servants for the Lord. Oh, but the modern person, that said servant. He meant slave. No. White men have to be bad and evil and whatever else because of self-hate. And all of this is projection from whites. And more than anything, it's projection from ladies. You ladies out there. Not you ladies on the right. You're awesome. But the other kind of ladies, the nasty ladies that are around all the time. So let's talk about that a little bit. I caught this clip from Chris Williamson with Sargon yesterday, and I thought I'd throw it in the show. It was pretty good. I don't know why this is on a playlist thing, but oh well. I'll just full size it. Mute myself here, and let's listen to what old Carl has to say here.
Like, the more that I think about this, the more I feel like we might be totally fucked. Like, it just feels like, you know that meme of the dog in the house, and the house is on fire, and he's just smiling through the beginning of the end. This is fine. Like, if men don't kill themselves, they're exiting education and society and family life at the highest rates ever. Women are frantically pursuing careers only to discover that they're unable to find a partner that they're attracted to, and then jump on meds at 40 years old. The highest percentage, the highest group that use meds are between white women between 40 and 45 years old. And then the people who want kids can't find a partner that does as well. Birth rates declining, faith in the leaders and the news organizations non-existent, and everyone's just about sufficiently sedated not to notice or care that it's going on.
That's a precise and accurate summary of how the West has declined and will collapse, yes.
Fuck.
I know. And do you know what's worse, right? Is that
Honestly, man, like,
I like the response there. So I just want to play this again. Chris Williamson giving this real quick synopsis, and it is what is going on. And Carl's been talking about it for quite a while. We have guys like Douglas Murray out there talking about it. Camille Paglia had talked about it in the past. She's not as up out there in the mainstream. We have Professor Dutton, the Jolly Heretic, on YouTube, talks about it all the time. That's his focus of his entire channel. Why this is going to happen. It is happening. And we are, along with it, in the midst of a civil war. And the civil war has gone beyond cultural. It's skirmishes in the streets. It's now on the political level where people are attacking each other. They're attacking their political adversaries, trying to prevent them from having power and control. They're changing the standards of elections so that there is no standard. They're doing everything they possibly can. I think that the left is a little worried, but that beast, that Leviathan, never dies, folks. The fight for freedom is eternal. This is one of the things I don't get. I mean, I do get, but some of the guys that are a little bit more hardcore and they're like, oh, you got to do stuff, yada yada yada, and well, you can't keep always running, and I don't think we should always run either. I want to set up a spot where the Amish set up their spot. I want to set up our spot where we do our thing and we can handle our own and make it difficult for the government to get to us and do whatever. But we're not going to be doing anything illegal or anything wrong. We're going to be just moral people. And if immoral people come around, we're not going to put up with it. We'll say, well, you have to leave. You exile, guys. Get out of here. Sorry, but it's what we have to do to maintain discipline. Even the church does that, at least the ancient church. Modern churches don't exile anybody, but still, you can be excommunicated still in the Catholic and Orthodox Church and some others, although it's rare. But these are the things that we need to do to maintain a future, and we have to be very particular in how we teach our children. And if our children want to leave and they want to go off, then that's what they get to do. But it is the generations before us that sold us out, right? And so it's time for us to take back our freedom and to fight for it and to say those generations were wrong and to teach our children about freedom and to continue to fight for it. But the fight never dies because tyranny always reigns its ugly little head. People wish to control you because it gives them a sense of security. Some people just want to watch things burn. They are the smallest minority, but if they get power, God help us. And that's something I want to avoid. It really is. And it worries me. I'll often use the word strong man, but it really isn't any different because the strong man does want to watch the world because the strong man is so arrogant, so filled with his own glory. Someone like Stalin, right? That they believe that they are morally right in the execution of millions for the longer ends, right? The idea that the ends justify the means and the means executing all those who are deplorables. Something that was in the news recently, doubled down on, was it the New York Times, I think, wrote the article. Hillary Clinton once called, all these people deplorables, and she was right. Something like that. I don't know. I'm not getting much. I've got about 6 hours of sleep every night the last week. This past week, I've worked, I don't know. I've probably worked 50 hours already this week, but it's all good. It's all good. Got goals, buddy. Got goals. Hey, Holly, how you doing? Good to see you here. See Spooks here. Get Samuel here. Anyways, I'm going to let this play. Let me mute myself real quick.
The more that I think about this, the more I feel like we might be totally fucked. Like, it just feels like, that meme of the dog in the house and the house is on fire and he's just smiling through the beginning of the end. This is fine. Like, if men don't kill themselves, they're exiting education and society and family life at the highest rates ever. Women are frantically pursuing careers only to discover that they're unable to find a partner that they're attracted to, and then jump on meds at 40 years old. The highest percentage, the highest group that use
Depression.
meds are between white women between 40 and 45 years old. And then the people who want kids can't find a partner that does as well. Birth rates declining, faith in the leaders and the news organizations non-existent, and everyone's just about sufficiently sedated not to notice or care that it's going on.
That's a precise and accurate summary of how the West has declined and will collapse. Yes,
Fuck.
I know. And do you know what's worse, right? Is that the few that are in the generations that are coming up now are totally fucked by leftist ideology. The way that women, young women, view men is evil. It is purely as a transaction, as in they are essentially prostitutes, every single one, and they don't even realize it. And the young men,
What do you mean?
view women as trophies. You know, women are now just, again, they're not people. They don't view each other as people. The thing.
So what Carl's saying is not at all an inappropriate view for these young men. There are a lot of channels in the manosphere that say men should get married and this and that. I particularly, more recently, have watched a lot of Tyler the Fiend. But the guy's right about the dating world. I'm pretty savvy with women, or used to be. You know, I can tell you what Carl just said, that these men are seeing women as status, was a place where I was at. I don't think that way anymore, but that was a place where I was at because I just kept getting bad women. Now I got bad women because I had to work on me, and there were things I didn't understand, like I let women cross my boundaries too often, and when you do that, they don't respect you anymore. There's a lot of issues that I was having in my relationships because of me. And you attract the bad women when it's you too. But that is very much with the top level guys who are getting the majority of the girls. That's very much how it is. Oh, this girl's super hot. She's she's smart, blah blah blah. I walk in a room, I have the prettiest girl on my arm. Look at me. That's a big testosterone boost. That is a status symbol. In fact, let's jump ship real quick over to another video I had pulled up, and you'll understand, if you didn't already, a part of this is very short, from what I've learned, one of my favorite all-time YouTube channels for sure. But guys, I would pull up articles and stuff if I had more time. And but you love me anyways, so we're gonna watch videos and I'll do the commentary, right?
The best way to raise testosterone is probably the trickiest. Animal researchers found that the easiest way to guess which male has the highest testosterone is to just check their position in the social hierarchy. Simply put, being higher in a social hierarchy means you very likely have higher testosterone. Higher testosterone makes it easier to put on muscle and lose fat, to be more motivated and confident, and even makes men more likely to go and talk to women. Interestingly, these things go on to further raise testosterone. Exercise like squats and sprinting raises your testosterone. Confidently engaging in a competition and winning raises your testosterone. And research has even shown that talking to women raises men's testosterone. It seems it's easier for the winners to keep on winning. That might sound depressing, but actually I think that's pretty encouraging because it means things get easier. When you take on a difficult challenge, your physiology actually makes it easier to take on the next challenge and the next. If you want to know more details, check out my video titled
All right. So, status in the hierarchy is the big deal with all that. And how do you get status in the hierarchy? Well, you have to work your way up. You have to gain respect from people. One of the ways that you gain a lot of respect from other men is women. This is just how it works. I remember some years ago, back when I was single, I was in a dance club with my roommates, and some of my roommates' friends, and they were trying to. It was like a Wednesday night. It was like ladies' night, and they wanted to meet girls. I don't usually do the dance club thing because I can't hear I like pubs. You can talk to people. But that's what they wanted to do, and there are girls there, so cool. The waitress there, really pretty, cute girl, whatever, attractive figure, all that stuff, and they don't wear much clothes at that place. Um, she started talking to me. We were just making conversation. And my buddies were like, "What did you do to that girl? Why was she talking to you?" Da, 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 da. And I'm like, "I didn't do anything. I did what I always do. I treated her like I treat every woman." It was pretty simple. It's like, I treat her like she's nothing, like she's just a regular person. I didn't look at her and think, "Oh, you're super hot. I'm gonna put you on a pedestal, and I'm not gonna talk to you." I treated her like I was, at a status myself that I could talk to her, and we were at least equals if I was not even, perhaps above her. And she had a boyfriend, all this other stuff. We chatted for a while. And I've had several things like that in my life. And again, I'm not even that great with women per se. I'm decent, but I'm a lot better than most of the guys I know. So the point is that put me in a pinnacle spot amongst those people at that time, right? And so having beautiful women, or having lots of women, in fact, the research flat out says if you are having multiple sexual partners, that's when your testosterone is going to be the highest. And when you get married, it actually lowers, believe it or not. But this is a status thing. So now think about the status of men in society and how they've been positioned to be weakened, that only a small percentage of these men are allowed to gain any status. They can't really marry. Mind you, monogamy to some degree in society is an invention, not fully, it is our natural state, but it is an invention to keep things equal and not have men get out of control. Right? It's to stabilize the society based on the Gini coefficient. Very similarly in economics, when men are not married over a point of about 40%, you get about 50% not married, they become extremely violent. And this is why polygamy is largely banned, because you can't have one guy or 10 guys with all the women and everyone else sexless and depressed. It's bad. It's bad for all of the society. So let's keep going here. What I meant to do.
Human being is a three-dimensional thing. It's got a material component, and then it's got an emotional component, and a spiritual component. It's, like the metaphysics we ascribe to what is a person. And the thing that we consider, you're not just Chris. You're, you're not just the body of Chris. You are, a personality. I'm considerate of you when I'm talking to you and things like this. When you message me on Facebook, like, "Hey man, how's it going?" So I don't just send you a link to my OnlyFans, right, and ask you to subscribe. But that's how a generation of women have been trained by feminists to view men, in order not to be oppressed by the patriarchy, right? And so these women, I think, have been essentially made unable to love men as people, right? They don't really see them as people. They view them as a kind of competition, competitors on a playing field. And the young men don't know what to do. And so now they're just following their base instincts of, I should try and have sex. I should try and see a woman naked. And therefore that's flattening a woman down to merely her biological components. Now it's not even romance, it's not about falling in love. It's about send nudes. It's about hookups.
Well, it's
folks, I don't know the number of sexual partners you may have had in your life, but I can tell you that, I've not had a ridiculous amount, but I've had a more than I probably should have. And what I can say is that 70% of those interactions are like, meh. They're like, eh. And only about 10% are amazing. And then the other, like 20% before you get to that 90% are better than meh, than average, right? But they're not amazing. And even with the same partner, it's not always amazing every single time. But what happens is, because we devalue that, And this is less so for men. It's not as much of a big deal, but women especially, because we devalue that, we desensitize ourselves to it. We don't pair bond emotionally with the physical act. Women get wrecked by this. They have way too many sexual partners, and then they can't truly trust and commit as they get older. Not all women, a certain percentage. But you know what I'm talking about, guys. This is something that has been hashed out over and over and over again in the culture. Why am I bringing it up now? Because it all goes back to the weapons that are being used against us purposefully, and we need to be reminded and aware and cognitive of it. And we need to be able to form cogent arguments against our enemies, and we need to be able to tell them, no, everything you stand for is the destruction of all life. And it is. It 100% is. Why? This is why I often use the phraseology that they are a Malthusian death cult. They believe that the earth has finite resources, that we will destroy all the resources quicker, probably, millennia quicker than reality suggests, but that quicker than we could possibly imagine. Within 10 years, according to AOC, we're all going to die, or at least things will be irreversible. What do you know about irreversible? We don't know enough about the planet and science and physics to make such grandiose statements. That is just absurdly hubristic. It's irreversible. The amount of things that we do not know about the universe just overwhelmingly dwarfs the tiny fraction of what we do know. But I lost my train of thought there. Essentially, though, this is what they're doing to weaponize us, and then by giving women this sexual license and power, and degrading men who would normally be leading. You've made women unhappy. You've made men unhappy. You create a huge amount of nihilism. People are more suicidal. They're looking for answers to people who aren't leaders. They are merely managers. They are managing the system. And, a lot of people talk about midwits or middle management, right? But those people are part of the problem because they go along to get along. But the people at the top who are directing these things, they are not midwits. What they are doing is they are managing our society so it's more malleable for their purposes. And the only way to do that is to devalue every individual. And again, to make everyone equal. Because when equality sets in, nobody has value. Everybody is of equal value. And that equal value is just a cog in the wheel, right? It's something that can be sacrificed. It's for the greater good. You must be sacrificed. Your individual value is not more important than everyone else's. And this isn't about, obviously, weighing a scale of, what do we do? Or a train, the trolley track thing. We have one person over here or a million people over here. Well, one, that's not what we're talking about. We talked about the disposability by force, by injustice and immorality of people because, the system doesn't like them. Or because, they're worthless eaters, as some authors have written. Useless feeders, that they take up space and resources. So who cares? Right? Because there's nothing special or individual or unique if everyone's equal. And again, if everyone's equal, then no one needs help from anyone else, right? Because we can all do it all. None of us have weaknesses and none of us have strengths. See, God created us unequal so that we had to rely on each other. But the left are Satanists, and they invert everything, and they absolutely 100% wish to destroy the very fabric of all that there is. If it were up to them, there would just be a few. There'd be, a few thousand people on Earth. They'd all be super rich, and they'd have whatever resources, they would want through their slaves. And then the Earth would be pretty much empty and let to be overwhelmed by the beasts. And again, this is antithetical to Scripture, because Christ, or God, mandated to Adam and Eve to care for the earth. And then again, Noah, when Noah came off of the ark, right after the great flood, he said, all the fruit-bearing seeds are yours, and the animals, and yada yada yada. And you take care of the land. That's part of our thing at the top of the hierarchy of the earth, right? We are to take care of it. So I'm not against environmentalism, but the environmentalism they push, of course, is destructive. Everything they push is destructive. And it only appeals to people's emotions, because once you start to get into the rationale of it, it doesn't work out. And people that are intelligent, who believe in the rationales, are just going with their emotions. They really are, because the data does not bear out. There is no example where centralized command and control is effective. It's not. It's highly inefficient. Yet, I mean, I know people. I have a person in my family, married into my family, is a doctor in political science, and as far as I know, he's a socialist because he's a moron. Smart guy. I mean, I've talked to him, but I mean, like, he doesn't have wisdom, right? All right, let me play some more of this.
It's objectification from men to women, and commodification of men from women. Like, was it you that said, in the same way that porn has skewed men's expectations of women, OnlyFans has skewed women's expectations of men? I've cited it by you, even if it wasn't. So
it may well take it, because I totally agree with that statement. I may have said that, because it's awful how OnlyFans has turned. It's commodified being a girlfriend, right? That's the thing. So everyone thinks, oh, you're just getting nudes. It's just like porn. It's not just like
it's emotional intimacy.
I've been watching a bunch of YouTube videos by women who do OnlyFans, who explain what they're doing on OnlyFans. Because I've never used them. God forbid, my wife would kill me. But so basically, it seems like it's sort of like an online artificial girlfriend service, and the sort of romantic nudes that you'd send to one another and sexy posts and stuff, they send to 5,000 men or however many it is. It's like, right, that's not good, is it? That's pretending to have an intimate relationship with thousands of different men. And it's not surprising that there have been recently a bunch of OnlyFans models who have been murdered by subscribers.
No way.
Yeah, no. We recently did a video. In fact, it should be out on Podcast The Low Ceases already by the time this goes up. It's not out yet, though. But we've got 3 examples in the last week where subscribers have murdered these people. And there was one guy who had gone to Florida, stalked an OnlyFans model, murdered her, and then written on the walls, "I shouldn't have come. It's her fault for making me love her," or something like that, and stuff like this. And it's just like, look, this is warped what it is to be in a romantic and sexual relationship. Like, pretending that we can just commodify these things and that's all a human being needs is not true.
And that both people on both sides can detach their emotions from the situation. That the guy isn't going to feel anything more than, he knows that this is just messages. He knows that this is just work. And the same as precisely. They can't switch that off. They can't switch that emotional situation off.
But for the sort of Gen Z woman, men are merely a mode of transaction because they've been indoctrinated by feminists in their schools and just in the culture at large to view men as being part of an oppressive structure, and they have to be on their guard against men.
Men are transactional because communism is a materialistic philosophy. And it's funny that people tout this book like it's some sort of genius. Das Kapital is a little bit more in depth, but I don't even think Marx wrote it. Engels seemed to write it because it took it was like 15 years or something. I don't remember, but people praise this book, and it's pretty simple to debunk because it was destroyed in a few years by other economic theory. Yet people keep pushing it. And all the communist movements, by the way, none of them have been workers' protests. And of course, we're going to talk about workers' protest here in a couple minutes once I get through this, because that's what's going on with the convoys. And of course, the statists, the authoritarians, they don't really want that, because socialists are never genuine people. They're just authoritarians. And they're materialist. I mean, when your whole presupposition of your philosophy is material wealth is unequally distributed, and that's what causes all the ills of society, you're a materialist. Sorry. And the equal distribution of material wealth will somehow make everyone happy, you're a materialist. Material has nothing to do with your happiness. Mind you, life is easier if you don't have to worry about your debts and your bills, right? But that's not going to make you happy. This does not give you any sort of intrinsic motivations, right? And your life isn't going to be spiritually fed, emotionally fed because of money and wealth. I mean, you can go buy sex. I don't know if, I've never bought per se, but I don't know if you could say I've never paid for sex, because I was about to say, let me put it the right way. I've paid for a lot of dates and taken a lot of girls out and had sex. And that was it. It was completely transactional. What is the difference? And a lot of people have made this point before. So it's like, and sometimes it is very much that. In my case, 95% or more of the time, I'm, not it's never like a one night stand kind of guy, but just saying, like, there were other transactions afterward, but to go, the whole idea to go out on a date, to pay for it. And a lot of guys don't do that anymore. A lot of guys expect to go Dutch because these women today, a lot of them are expecting men to give them a free meal. I get that. But like, what do you want from me? And what do these women want? They want material value, because that's actually what women want. They want to provide biologically for their offspring. It's in their nature, right? So yeah, what I was going to say is, yeah, I've not, like, it's not like, here's money, let's have sex, but it's certainly, hey, let's go out so we can at least talk and figure out if we like each other, or if we have the hots enough for each other to go, do the nasty. And that transaction's usually on the man. So she gets a free meal, and then whatever, you get sex, I guess. I mean, so does she, but that's what our society's come down to, right? And even in a relationship, I remember my last serious relationship. It was really was trying to make this thing work, and it was totally not working at all for me. I don't think it was really working for her, because we were breaking up like every month, or she was, and then like 10 minutes later, she was forgiving me and whatever else. And it wasn't because I did anything wrong. It's because she was crazy. She was materialistic. It's like, I have a daughter. You knew that. You got into this. I had, work, and, I was working like about 50 hours a week at the minimum, sometimes more. And there were times where, she knew. I was like, I can take you out once or twice a month, because I just moved into my house. So I paid like a lot of money, and I didn't have a lot of savings at the time. But I put money down. I'd paid for some stuff here out of pocket for like extra stuff, like, granite countertops, that kind of stuff. She understood that, but then she would want to eat out all the time. Now, I cook. I'm a really good cook, actually. I don't know anyone that doesn't like my food. Most people were pretty impressed when I cook. But when, when she would come over here, she'd want to eat out. And I'd say, honey, I can cook, blah, blah. Oh, no, eating out's just more fun. That's what she would say. And say, well, I can't pay for that. Oh, I'll pay for it. I don't care, whatever. And she could, because she didn't have really a lot of bills. So that would be fine and all. And then I would go see her, but I had a rotating schedule, and she managed the store for her aunt and made her own schedule. So she would schedule her days off with mine. So she'd come see me and hang out. We live, apart, about 30 some odd minutes. Not that big a deal. But she would then complain to me, I come and see you way more often than you see me. Okay, I have a kid. I'm a single dad. I got to work. I can't just change my schedule whenever I want. And I do come and see you. So that's nonsense. You come drive down and you stay for 2 or 3 days. I have to go back and forth. So that doesn't fly. And then she'd go, I spend far more money in this relationship than you do. Well, yeah, because you come to me and go, I want to get takeout, honey. And I'm like, I'm going to cook. And you're like, but it's more fun to get takeout. It's more fun to go to the restaurant. Let's go to the restaurant. I say, I can't afford it. Well, I can. And then you're going to complain about it. So that's a material transaction, right? This is a totally horrible relationship. That relationship, mind you, is in part of when I finally was like, okay, I need to change some things. And I mean, I was a naughty boy a couple times after that, but then I went celibate, no fab, and all that stuff, and got my head straight. And now I'm with a lovely woman all around, and have a beautiful baby with her. So my point is, though, I took and I changed my mind. I repented, literally, right? I changed my perspective, and I knew that wasn't acceptable to me. I took everything that I'd ever found not acceptable, and I realized what I was doing wrong by not setting proper boundaries, and I realized that this wasn't the kind of relationship that I was going to have. So, anyways, long tangent. Let's play this, and then let's get into some convoy stuff.
Here to take something from you. Men are dangerous to women. You've got to view them as a thing to get money from.
Well, if they're the enemy, then defeating the enemy makes sense. But the other side of this is, man, I don't know. I wonder what it teaches women, not only the women that do OnlyFans, but even the women that know that other women do OnlyFans. What does it teach them about what their worth is? We've literally just said, if you enter the world and your primary source of value is your looks or your sex appeal, this is a depreciating asset and you need to be very, very careful. This is the richest, I wouldn't like to guess, there is a huge swath of some of the richest people in the UK and in America that are women that are probably getting their money directly from taking their clothes off and sending photos to people that pay them for it. And that's what other women are thinking as well. So by osmosis, almost, there's these role models of women that are in a society that says, girls, you can be a girl boss too, clap back, don't settle for less, be a boss bitch, all of this stuff, be a career woman. Mm-hmm. And also some of the most successful career women that you know are the ones who are using the lowest form of female value to the world as their way to climb this dominance hierarchy.
And that's exactly what they're doing. Everything's transactional and everything's based on their sexual value and nothing else. And women, especially attractive women, seem to think that just because they look pretty or they have, nicely shaped breasts and butts and legs and that kind of stuff, things that guys like, that's enough. And that they can be a nutbag. And ladies, I can tell you right now, guys, just because a girl is pleasing to your eyes doesn't mean that your physical connection is going to be great in any way. And that's just silly. But those are the least important, lowest level of resolution things that you should be concerned about, really. I mean, of course, you want to be attracted sexually to somebody that you're, obviously intending to procreate with. But it's probably in the long run the least important thing. Your pair bonding is important in that, and women tend to ruin that these days because they get they get too many guys in there first. But that's not always the case. So let's see. I had a few other things here, but it is pretty sad. I had oh yeah. Let's cover this real quick. I'm not going to play it from this. I'll play old Sean Baker's little video. And again, this is part of the cultural decline. I'll probably play this again on Wednesday on the It's Just for the Memes, but because it's funny. But this was a debate between some crazy lady and Jordan Peterson's daughter in Oxford. And I heard Peterson talk about this on Rogan. I haven't watched the full debate yet, but I found this funny. And of course, I had it pulled up here, but we're not going to watch it for the sake of time. Carl Benjamin from the Lotus Eaters talked about this. And this lady's absolutely, absolutely insane. And so we're going to go through this minute and a half. And then we're going to talk about this female emotionalism and how this this is driving all of this, and how the left has used this purposefully to drive all this. Because what they've done is they've created this false idea that men have always been horrible to women, and therefore now men have no right to be horrible to women. And I'm not saying anyone should be horrible to anybody, but let's not put it that way. Men have no right to be stern in any way with women, which is absurd. Men are stern with men, and men are stern with women, and men are stern with children, and that's how men should act when it's time to be stern. Period. If your evaluation of the situation is based on someone's sex, then you are actually a sexist, right? You are the one who's judging the situation based on sex instead of judging the situation based on circumstance. And we tend to think this way because we all know instinctually women are the fairer sex. They are the weaker sex. They are the more emotional, and men are more powerful and can be more aggressive and all of those other things. Therefore, when guys get to be a jerk toward a girl, most people will take the side of the woman, even though often she deserves it. And I'm not saying all the time. I'm saying that women do things and they deserve to be chewed out just like anybody else. You want to play on the field of equality and you want to be treated like anyone else, and then I treat you like anyone else, and the first thing you say is I'm a misogynist because I taught you that way. Well, you're just a despot. You're just a tyrant. You're just a person who wishes to wield any tool you can to beat others into your submission. And it is the exact same position they use for the colored people, or the now phrasing the people of color, right? The ethnic people, as they say. The brown and black people, the indigenous people. That's all this is. It is nonsense to buy it. Can we acknowledge that there were wrongs in the past? Sure. In every society ever, regardless of their ethnicity. It is meant solely to beat you over the head with. And guess who's buying it and pushing the narrative? It's women. And here's a woman who's unhinged, out of control, probably has no kids, no husband. She looks like it, at least. Does not look like a picture of health. And she's going to teach you how eating meat is racist and sexist. Well, it might help if I have some volume, right?
Frequent and intense climate change caused weather events. These events especially affect girls and young women. Your hamburger comes with a dose of misogyny. The Western world colonized their space without sending a single beef eater. Through colonial power, the diet of beef-loving English people became normative. The food heritage of pre-conquest peoples, like the land itself, was overrun. It was the colonizers, especially the British, who declared that the virility of meat-eating nations explained their success over the supposed feminine and weak rice-eating countries they defeated. Historically, the vast majority of the world lived without animal protein as a central part of their diet. The assumption
that is an utter lie. Scientifically, like unequivocally false. Like, she cannot make that claim in good faith, yet she does. Societies who became agrarian and advanced, lost stature, had more tooth decay and heart disease, and started to die of cancers. That's what happens when you become civilized. Civilized is an interesting word because I don't believe in it. I think civilized is a tool of the devil. Become worldly is what we should think. You're becoming like the world. If you look at the early stories in the Bible and the nature and way that the people lived, they didn't live in civilization. Even the early Israelites didn't live in civilization. It's not what God intended for us. Civilization is a tool of the devil. You know who the first king is in the Bible? At least by tradition? It's a guy named Nimrod. Nimrod is considered to be the first king of the Babylonians in lore, right? And he helped build the ziggurats, or the Tower of Babel, which were to extend to heaven, and that God destroyed in order to keep men from trying to become like gods back in that time. That story is important because, well, we're still trying to become like gods. It is what we're trying to do by our own means. It's one of the important things that that Christ represents, because we can't become gods or godlike by our own means. We're never going to become gods per se, but we do become God-like, Christ-like. We do become in the resurrection and the life to come an image of God, literally. We're the idea is that we're to be empowered. We don't know fully, but empowered to be like angels. Christ even says this very specifically. Excuse me, that came out of nowhere. It says very specifically, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees try to corner him, and they said, or the scribes, and they said, well, what if a man marries what if a woman marries a man? And in the Jewish tradition, if you married a man and he died, you would then marry his brother or whatever. This is to keep property in line with your family, right? And they said, I guess it goes down like 4 brothers or something like that. And he said, which one's her husband in heaven? And Christ said, well, don't you know that man will be like the angels, neither given in marriage or, receiving in marriage? So the idea is that we'll be in a higher state or a higher plane or something more than what we are now. A purified body and empowered like Christ. And to be in Christ is to be in union with him, is to embody, right? Not just the peace and love and kindness and righteousness, all those things, right? But actually godliness, the powers that God has. So for miracles or whatever. Oh man. So now the sleep things get to me because I forgot where I started with that. In any case, I'm not trying to stumble and stammer amongst my words, but going back to this lady, like she's teaching that cultures did not eat meat, that it was white Europeans that brought cattle. Well, who were the Native Americans who were hunting buffalo? And why did the Americans basically hunt the buffalo to near extinction so they could wipe out the Native American tribes? Why do black people in Africa, like the what is it? Not the Agassi. Why do I always do this? The Maasai. The Agassi is the spear. The Maasai are the people. I always confuse that. The Maasai, who live primarily off of blood and milk and beef. Now they get more grains and stuff now in modern societies. Of course, they still live very tribally, but they get, supplemented with a lot of stuff now. But their traditional diet was primarily meat. Always has been. Always was. Go look into Weston A. Price's work. Let's see if I have his book around here. I don't know. I don't remember everything. I moved up here and I've barely been home. So, but Weston A. Price's work. Oh no, I don't have his book because I think I someone's borrowing that right now. That's right. Nutrition and physical degeneracy, though, you'll see the same thing. There are cultures that have robust health. They have a lot of animal products in them. We can go look at the fossil record. We can go look at isotope data. This lady is crazy. She's espousing nonsense. Carl talks about on the Lotus Eaters, when he addresses this, the Mongolians and how strong and powerful and big they were. We know the archaeological evidence that what agriculture does. These people are insane, and they're trying to slowly kill you and all of society, whether they know it or not. It is what they are doing. It is 100% what they are doing. And I don't care if they are maliciously doing it or unintentionally doing it. They are not people to be respected, and they are an enemy, and it is evil. Just because you're ignorant of the evil you were doing doesn't mean you're not evil.
Notion that the best protein comes from corpses is a racist belief, as it erases and replaces indigenous African, Asian, Mesoamerican cultural food practices. Meat eating is also one of the ways gender-based structures of oppression are perpetuated.
That's almost based enough spook that if I believed in the origins of Islam, then I would it would make me want to convert, maybe. In any case, but yeah, that's pretty awesome. Christianity considers fasting, again, like ancient Christianity considers fasting to be the absence of meat. Think about that. It's a patriarchal Western idea from England that the colonizers brought together. No. You're a disingenuous hack who wrote some nonsensical words that appealed to some people's emotions, and you have no basis in your arguments.
Perpetuated. Men in the West are taunted to renew their man card by eating meat because that's what real men do. That's the sexual politics of meat, and it reveals how unsettled masculinity really is. Back home, my life.
Let me tell you something, folks. When they do studies on testosterone in men and men's behavior, eating meat's a big factor. If you don't eat meat, you have lower testosterone levels. It is just a fact. And I'm not talking about chicken and fish. I'm talking about meat, red meat. Red meat, grass-feeding, grazing cattle, ruminating animals are the prime source of food for human beings for all of history, and the most nutritious source. We know that it is quite important to us. We eat diets that are heavily animal-based. We have a short intestinal tract, no cecum, almost no cecum. It's there, but it's not very powerful. We have teeth that are meant to both grind and tear. It's not just one or the other. And cut. We know that B vitamins are hard to get and vital for human beings, especially for their mental health, mind you. B12 is very important for the myelin sheaths of your nervous system. You need collagen, because if you get too much protein without the of basic amino acids that you need, without the others that make up things like collagen, you'll get too many phosphoryl groups, which will again cause mental health problems. There's just all kinds of stuff that I'm just not going to be able to recall off the top of my head at the moment. But hey, this lady's insane. So, and she's pushing a narrative, and people are buying this, continuously. So, it's expanding this idea to some degree. But now it's getting tied into what she's doing. It's tying it into CRT, imperialism, and all this other thing. So anything that is of tradition that would be good for men and make men strong, because testosterone, having adequate testosterone levels is actually good for men. like you can get an erection, you have desire to have sex. Those things are actually good for you. They're stress relievers, right? To have sex with your significant other. You can then be like in a normal like mood without having fluctuating highs and lows. That's what another thing testosterone does. You can put on proper amounts of muscle, which then means you have a base metabolic rate that is higher, which generally means that you're healthier. Also, more muscle mass. The more muscle mass you carry, and the more strength pound to weight ratio you have as you age, the more likely you'll age well. Collagen is also very important as a anti-aging element. You can see it in all the vegans who don't get collagen and how terrible their faces look. There's just a slew of things that's just very, very important for us to eat, animal products. Anyways, as always, Bill's got his tangents. Too long. I'll shut up. We'll play this out, and then we'll talk about the convoy.
Library card is good for 7 years, but a man card can expire between breakfast and lunch if someone eats a veggie burger. Masculinity, a construct of the gender binary facing constant destabilization, feels always under threat, and eating animals is its protection racket.
How you gonna bring me to SNL and kiss?
Here I am muted. I was saying I don't even know why that came up, but it's because in a playlist. I don't know why. Because I was looking into some stuff about Kanye and connections and going down rabbit holes. That maybe I'll put some stuff together in the future. What I really wanted to bring up was all of the news articles about the convoy. And so in the beginning of the stream, actually, let me just move this over here. I got a lot of tabs for this one, guys, because I went through this the other night, and just article after article about the trucker convoy being racist bigots, and I didn't really get a chance to get these organized fully, because I have some swastika showings from last year, and it wasn't white heterosexual Christian males who were showing the swastikas. It was they were Muslim people, pretty sure. But that wasn't in the news story, because here in the West, we can't speak bad about Muslim people. Sorry, Spook, I'm not trying to get on your religion and all. I'm just saying we're not allowed to talk about it. They're a protected class. So, but before that, what I had was just article after article talking about this. And no pictures of it. So this is from the Toronto Star. And Holly, you might be able to educate us some on this. And why banning hateful symbols like the swastika is nearly impossible. It's just a whole thing to drum up ire against the convoy, and of course talk about swastikas and how hurtful it is to people that never even lived under the Nazi regime because of their ancestors and yada yada yada. Not to mention that the swastika is actually a long old known symbol that represents the sun, and the Nazis just appropriated it, and it shouldn't be tainted forever because of that. But I understand people use it in that way. But who cares? Most of the time, it's just someone trolling, or it's a minor faction of people that have no power or influence. Why do you folks keep giving so much power to words and symbols? So, what is this? Wire. Scott Taylor, no interpretive wiggle room for swastika flag at Ottawa protest or anywhere else. So here's a picture, and I don't see a swastika in that picture. Do you think there's a swastika anywhere in this article? Does that look like a swastika at the freedom protest? That looks like a Canadian flag to me. Ah, Canada. Free Canada. Where are these swastikas at? Man. No swastikas there. What about here? From the Washington Times. Truckers unite. Democrats should love these protests. Yeah, because the workers are rising up. And that's from Thursday, February 10th, from the Washington Times. This is actually a good article, but the Washington Times are rather conservative, or somewhat good article. But this was one of the few positive articles I found on this. Most of them, again, this was a Google search just on swastikas at the protest, because I want pictures. Pics, or it didn't happen. And it didn't happen. As far as I can tell, it did not happen. But I do have one pic. It's somewhere in here, and we'll get to it. But I just, again, the news and the framing of all this is really interesting to me. I had like 48 articles. 48. And I went back to 2021 with articles about swastikas and Canada and protest. So Justin Trudeau returns to Parliament with a hard stance against protest. So again, nothing really here. Week-long COVID isolation done. Spoke in an emergency debate in Parliament Monday night. But mind you, Justin Trudeau is like quadruple vax, had COVID, wants vaccine mandates to end COVID. Because he's a real genius. Or maybe vaccine mandates and all that stuff have some other nefarious thing going on in the background. Maybe that's what's going on. It says the emergency debate in Parliament Monday night, failing to extend an olive branch to the anti-mandate protesters occupying Ottawa, yada, yada, yada. They don't deserve to be comforted with inherent violence of a swastika flag on a street or Confederate flag or the insults and jeers that just because they're wearing a mask and so forth. Again, where's this picture? I've watched a lot of stuff from the Canadian Parliament in the last few days, little clips. You've yet to see a picture. February 7th, letter to the editor. Far-right extremists in Canada is a threat. A threat to what? Freedom? A threat to freedom? No. It's a threat to tyranny. That's the threat. It's a threat to their tyranny and their control. And people buy this. Not everyone, but a lot of people do. And I mean, they're not even necessarily lefties. They read this and they go, oh, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know I didn't know these people were extremists. And you go, well, where's the evidence? Well, the newspaper said. And then you go, you don't think the newspaper lies? Come on, why would they lie? I've had that conversation probably 1,000 times in my life. And I'm like, I can't help those who don't want to be helped. News talking about the Pembroke Observer and news talking about how the same elements that led to an attempted insurrection in the United States were present in Canada. See what they're doing? See what's going on here? Now, our neighbors in Canada are very fine people. They're very friendly. We love them. They love us. We get along just fine. We don't have any conflicts. And yet, for some reason, this language of American politics has to be interjected into theirs. But, there's no top-down control going on. Just because every single article is saying the same thing without a singular photograph of proof, a singular shred of evidence. I mean, but they're all saying the same thing, so it must be true. We just repeat it enough, the truth will just appear. It'll appear because we said it so. It'd be like meme magic, but not quite. In it, I talked about how some Canadian politicians on the right and the political spectrum have embraced the far right. I mentioned how Canadians have been radicalized by conspiracy theories that have led to attack on our prime minister. What are you talking about? What conspiracy theory? Are you going to sit here and tell me that the vaccines are efficacious or that lockdowns are efficacious? We've known that they're not from the beginning. Now, I know that the vaccines, they sort of said, well, no, they have a 92% effect. No. The actual data did not say that, but, whatever. Go watch Tim Cass from the other night. He had Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey on. And my wife and I are big fans of Thomas Massey. She's met Thomas through her work before, but he's a nice guy from what I get, and he's basically like we are. He just wants to be left alone and wants Congress to do its job and whatever else. But he was talking about this stuff, like how they are weaponizing these things. I was going to say something about him. He said something about this that it just escaped my mind. In any case, I don't know. I brought him up, but go watch that because he said something there. I don't even know what I was going to say now. That's what you get. That's what you get, guys. What attack on the PM? Yeah, exactly. It'll probably come back to me. But it's time Canada looks in the mirror and says that we have a problem and that does something about it. Canadian exceptionalism needs to end if we have any hope of preventing something like what happened in the United States from happening here. Nothing happened in the United States. You mean some people walked in the Capitol building? You mean the police during a protest started assaulting people on the right because they have been gaslit by the media? And I know because I've been to DC a zillion times. I live like an hour away. The police down there are dumb. They don't have good hiring standards. They're stupid. They will hire anybody. I'm not joking. Unless like Secret Service police, that's another issue. The Capitol Police generally are not that bright. They hire these people because they have clean backgrounds, and that's it. And when you talk to them, their ideas are extremely skewed. They were given intelligence. I know that they were, because this is how it works. I spent 18 years between the military and law enforcement. This is how it works. They were given intelligence. They were told that there were right-wing extremists that were going to be violent there. They were told to stand down time and time again with Antifa, and then they were told that they had to be aggressive because right-wing extremists weren't like Antifa and would do more. And then the units, many of them were held back and understaffed so that the police would be in a greater position to have to do violence, right? Everyone I've talked to, every video I've seen, those cops were 3, 4, 5 times more aggressive than they ever were with the left-wing protests in the Summer of Love, where people were murdered. 30 some odd people? Cities destroyed, billions of dollars worth of damage. I think we had 3 people die. And the numbers are always changing because the stories keep changing. But we know Ashley Babbitt was murdered by Michael Byrd. We know that he was let off scot-free, even though he's an incompetent individual, leaving his firearm. How in the world do you do something like that? I've done some stupid things in my life, man, but that takes the cake. Left his firearm in the bathroom. Public building. It's insane. We know that the police beat someone to death, pushed someone off a ledge, and they fell, and then supposedly they were trampled, according to the news. And everyone goes, people died. Yeah, by the police. absurd. Anyways, I'm going to keep moving. I got stuff to do before the fights. I got people coming over. So I got lots of articles, and we're going to keep going through them because I'm going to get to the one, but I didn't have quite enough time today to get these in order. I didn't get to bed till 7 in the morning. I got up at noon, so I didn't even get. That was 5 hours of sleep. I didn't get 6. So here we see these swastikas here, right? And here it says a line was crossed when protesters openly displayed Nazi swastikas at John Troy has drawn Mayor John Troy has drawn that line. I strongly condemn this imagery, and talks about this, that, and another thing. And this was the photograph I was mentioning earlier. I don't know. These are Muslims. These are obviously Muslims. They are ethnically Middle Eastern. You can tell. They might not be as dark because they live in Canada, so they don't get as much sunlight. But this is what they're talking about. I don't know this article references that they're Muslims at all, because it's okay to be anti-Semitic if you are on the left or the left agrees with you. Now, I'm not here promoting anti-Semitism, but that's just the reality. Rashida Tlaib can do whatever she wants and be totally anti-Semitic. Doesn't matter. The minute someone says, should we really be giving foreign aid to Israel on the right? Guess who's an anti-Semite? Rules for thee, but not for me, right? And so I go down through this, and I don't see any other pictures. Nope. Well, there's a Nazi flag. This is from May 2021. Let's just keep moving. Look at this. The so-called Freedom Convoy is a symptom of a deeply unequal society. So-called. We just want to get rid of the vaccine mandates, but we're not leftists. Therefore, we're so-called. Why is the establishment, every article I bring up, and I'm going to keep bringing them up. I'm going to close out the show this way. I got 48 articles, folks. 48 portraying this. I couldn't find but 3 or 4 that were positive toward the convoy. All, of course, from rightish outlets. The so-called Freedom Convoy descended into Ottawa with a stated intent of remaining until the federal government revokes the COVID-19 measure and mandates, most of which are the responsibility of the provinces. But if there's a federal mandate, which there is, even though the provinces lift them or not, there's guidance from the federal government, then that's where you need to go. And since Justin Trudeau is a member of the World Economic Forum, and since he's part of the Great Reset, and since he espouses that, then maybe, it's the federal government that needs to be addressed. Convoy members set up near Parliament Hill and the surrounding downtown areas being allowed and disrupted occupation that, as of now, has no end in sight. The vast majority of Canadians disagree with the stated aims and methods of the convoy, and much of the conversation focused on whether or not it has a right to be there. Of course, it has a right to be there, and I don't believe you. I think most Canadians support the convoy. I just do not see how that would be any different. Now, mind you, people are talking about all these protests, right? Apparently there's violence, there's this and that, and oh, do they have the right to protest? And they need to stop this now. They need to stop this now. Well, it's only 2 weeks of honking until you drop the mandates, right? 2 weeks to flatten the mandates, and it's going to keep going until those mandates are flattened. See, it's funny when the government act as holding the population as hostages, but when the population holds the government as a hostage, they don't like it. They don't like it. What is good for the goose is not good for the gander. And here's a perfect example of that.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protest is supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
They go low.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and bring her neck?
Biggest terror threat in the country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. Even if he lost, he insulted your wife. He got on the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you call the crowd. And you push them on there. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels. This isn't, they're not going to let up. If you think we're rallying, you ain't saying nothing yet.
So that classic video from Cauldron Pool, which I like to bring up every now and again, ends with the death of a Patriot Prayer gentleman by a far leftist. It's quite sad. The left calls for this, though. They call for the protest. Get up in their face. Why aren't they rising up? They just said Donald Trump, they would have to murder. They said he won't get out of office. They'd have to shoot him. All this other stuff. You think that's going to really happen? And mind you, I worry. I worry about the return of Trump because I worry about political backlash on his part. I worry about him becoming the strong man, not because I think that he actually would or is like that per se, but we never know which circumstance we'll be in, right? Now, if it comes down to him and Joe Biden, you know who's getting my vote, and it ain't Biden. But it would be a hell of a shame to say, oh, well, I voted in Trump and he went on to make things a lot worse. So I would hope that he wouldn't be so petty and would just expel those in the government and decrease its size. That would be what needs to be done. So here's what you need to know about the Freedom Convoy in Canada. Remember, folks, democracy dies in darkness. It's from the Washington Post. So this is pretty benign, actually. I'm sure there's some smears in here. I haven't gone through this whole article, but it's as far as I could tell, it's pretty benign. Here it says the police force also opened up criminal investigations to what was said was a threatening and illegal behavior. The mayor of Ottawa declared a state of emergency on Sunday. It said they had worked to end a disruption. The officers have issued hundreds of tickets, yada, yada, yada. So what? It's a protest. Back to the swastikas, right? PBS NewsHour. PBS, Public Broadcast System, station, whatever. Where's the swastika, PBS? You cannot put in your title shot the swastika. Why? because it's not there. Swastikas in public urination. Anti-vaccine protest draws outrage in Canada. It's from February 1st. And no swastika. Jewish Telegraphic Agency. Swastikas displayed at Canadian Freedom Convoy protest against vaccination mandates. By the way, I had a video, but I didn't get it in the show. I'd have to search for it. But listen to the Parliament in Canada talking about Justin Trudeau being a racist, and how just because Justin Trudeau was a racist, not all the people of the left-wing party of his party are also racists. That was a pretty good move. That was a pretty good move by that PM. Props to him. I give him a pound, because what he was doing was he was making the same equivalency. Just because someone showed up, if someone did, then it doesn't mean everyone else is complicit, right? Not everyone is culpable because one person at a thing. And here is a Confederate flag, which also, mind you, is not a racist flag. It is a rebel flag, specifically, that you are a rebel. No one in the South who still flies that flag because they're wanting slavery or Jim Crow or anything like that. I know, because I grew up in the South. I grew up in the most northern part of the South, don't get me wrong, but I grew up in the South. My family in the South. My life has been in the South, not in the North. And that is the deal. Swastikas and other symbols of hate were on display at the Canadian Freedom Convoy protest against vaccination mandates in Ottawa on Sunday that prompted Prime Minister Justin Blackface Trudeau to flee to his secret location due to security concerns. No, he left because he had COVID, and he didn't want people to see that he had COVID, even though they released it after he'd been vaccinated, when this whole thing is about vaccines. That's what really happened. And he wanted to go back to a place where he could rest, be quiet, talk to his handlers, talk to the powers that be above, how he's going to handle this. Among the symbols displayed at the protest were swastikas, and in at least one instance, a Confederate flag. That's not a Confederate flag. That is a truck with a rebel flag. Where are ye swastikas? Mind you, back here, American flag with the Canadian flag, because the American flag is a symbol of freedom. Same reason why the Hong Kong protesters put it up there. Where is my swastika? Where is my swastika? Where's my photo? Good news article there, Jewish Telegraphic Agency. No, actually, your crap organization. You would have put a swastika in, like from the protest, if that was true. Pics or it didn't happen, my friends. Pics or it didn't happen. From the Jerusalem Post, swastikas displayed at the Canadian Freedom Convoy protest against vaccination mandates. And of course, they give the old Nazi armband. No picture. Oh, look at that. No picture. It's almost like they manufactured a lie. This is in part hilarious, but related. Paris braces for the arrival of the Freedom Convoy with thousands of police deployed to stop road chaos as Austria becomes latest nation to ban protests inspired by Canadian truckers. They're trying to ban these. They're saying you cannot protest now. Good luck. Good luck, folks. And this is spreading like wildfire. And this is what we have to do. Then this is what we have to do. And they will know. And this won't happen in the same way again. Because they will know. Mind you, once we have fully automated trucks, no way to fight back, folks. Most people don't have the wherewithal to do so. Police investigate illegal acts at Ottawa anti-vaccine mandate trucker protest. Prime Minister Trudeau condemned protesters who displayed symbols of hatred and division. Yeah, we all know that. Once again, no swastikas. And here, this was defacing. There are some lines you don't cross unless you're BLM, and then it's okay. What did they cross? They just dressed him up. They put a Canadian flag on him. They're saying that their nation is in distress and a freedom mandate. And this is insane. The lack of critical thinking in our society is insane to me. This is a great headline. Here is the only picture I found of this from the DH News. Vile, violent, and hateful leaders denounce Nazi Confederate flags at Ottawa protest. So, you know what we do here? We're gonna save that. I don't know why this came up on that side, but whatever. We're gonna save this. I'm gonna go over here to the old reverse engine searches. Reverse engine image. Brain not work. It's all right. I'm probably gonna drink some beer later and let the brain not work the rest of the day. Upload image. All right, guys, give me a minute. Let's see. Meanwhile, that's a battle flag of Tennessee. There you go. That's right. That's not a Confederate flag. Yeah, I know. Well, they don't know what the Stars and Bars is about or any of that stuff. I mean, it drives me nuts, man. It's the literal rebel flag. And like co-Confederate version is a square flag used in tricolor flag, a la Texas flag. Yeah. Speaking of which, Anti-Commie, I know you sent me 2 donations over there, honk honk, and shout out to the WAP Nibs. You all have the best food. So I know I didn't read those off, but I know you also generally don't care. So I'm going to use Yandex because it's Russian. It actually tends to get less filtering. Believe it or not. And I'll just pull this over here. So I have, let's see, sites containing information about the image. Well, this is all in Russian. See if some Google Translate will go on. Nope, that's not it. Is this it? This looks like it might be it. See, my question is, I don't know that this is the protest. It looks stock. It looks like a stock photo to me. Like just because they have F. Trudeau flags. Or is it the one person? Why is this the only outlet that has this picture? And then like, is someone going to associate that with a Gadsden flag? Because those are 2 completely different ideologies. Yes, Google. Translate to English. So this looks like a rather interesting website. So let's see. We have Peter's from 2012. Let's see. There are other photos in here. Okay, so that wasn't that. Nope. I could use the old Googles in the reverse image search. Well, let's see if that'll do anything. That's it. Freedom Convoy. That's it. All these other pictures, all the videos online, everything, everywhere, and that is it. And it's already associated in Google with that. Hey, Jenny, what's up? I was looking for this tweet you posted. So did she just repost that picture, though? I don't think it's going to take me to it. Where's her media at? Yeah, I don't know. I'm no Twitter expert there, but that's it. That was the swastika flag, apparently. DLive. Let's go there real quick. Oh, that's where it just was. They're the only people to have a picture of it. Why are these other outlets who are established mainstream media outlets not showing the same picture? Why is this picture not around everywhere? Newsweek, Canadian protesters face investigation after national hero statue defaced. I just showed you what defacing meant. Mind you, on the anniversary of Frederick Douglass's speech in New York or whatever, I can't remember off the top of my head specifically what it was, but I did a video on this at the time. His statue was not only defaced, I think they beheaded it. I can't remember. They totally trashed it. Absolutely absurd. Canadian protesters faced investigation after a national hero statue defaced, swastika found, and then it goes on, and there's nothing. This is the only place I found this photo. I don't know when it's from. It could have been from last year. I'm pretty sure it is. There's a difference between freedom and anarchy. What the gathered mob failed to do was to self-police their own event to ensure their crazies understood that swastikas, Confederate flags, and public urination on war memorials would not be tolerated. Yeah. No left-wing riot has ever, or mob, protest, mostly peaceful protest, has ever policed its crowd. The National Post is garbage, by the way, but yeah. This is from February 1st. First reading, Freedom Convoy refuses to free Ottawa. What? Really? I think you're not understanding the gravity of the situation, where government is the one that is being tyrannical right now, and the people are saying, we don't want this tyranny. That's the situation. Bowanowski, the Freedom Convoy, crashed and burned. It's from the Toronto Sun. This is on New Year's Eve. Throughout the early night Sunday, fireworks cut the quiet 21C air as the adrenaline and the whiskey first flowed through parts of the Freedom Convoy. By Saturday, the quelling had begun, but there were already signs of decay when the Canadian flag was wrapped into a boutique that included the Confederate flag and the skull and crossbones and the swastika. There were no short supply of swastikas. Pics or it didn't happen. Where's that? Pics or it didn't happen. Right, this full-on article. I could sit here and click on that. Woke watch Minnie Mouse. It has nothing to do with the article. There are words on paper that are empty and meaningless. They have no truth behind them. Why some indigenous people support the trucker convoy and why others watch it with dismay. You mean indigenous people aren't a monolith who all think exactly alike, like some Borg hive mind? Like Democrats? What the hell? Still no swastikas. One. Hey guys, and do your research, man. If someone knows, do your research. I'm trying to run the show here, so I'm not going to get too into like reverse image searches live. I was going to try and do it beforehand, but like I said, I got home from work last night around 3. I didn't get to bed until 7 a.m. I didn't sleep that great. So it is what it is. But I am doing my best. Vaccine mandate protests in Ottawa turns into far-right movement, extremist expert says. This is from local news in Denver. Absolutely absurd. More from the national trash. Jeff Ross, the irrational orgy of hysteria surrounding the trucker convoy. For a nation that prides itself for being polite and rational, the reaction to the trucker convoy was anything but. I don't know, it's like normal stuff to me. The protesters in Ottawa have been a gift to Canada's Laurentine elite. I don't know what that even means, but okay. Who have framed it as if Adolf Hitler and Jefferson Davis were assaulting Parliament Hill. The trucker convoy was obviously no Panzer Division, but goose-stepping rednecks weren't needed for the narrative of something similar to be prepackaged before the protest even arrived in Ottawa. You know, I mean, and that's fair enough. At least this is a little bit more fair in framing this. But what do you mean goose-stepping rednecks? You don't know what a freaking redneck is. Socialists are Nazis, and Nazis are socialists. The socialist democratic left right now wants to racialize things and have socialism and distribute goods based on your race and ethnicity, just like the Nazis did. So here's from the Telegraph, of course, something a little bit better. Authoritarian Trudeau has no excuse for his irrational assault on freedom. That was on the 10th. And I go through here, a little effect is seen in cross-border traffic after Canada vaccine mandate. This is from February 7th, 2020. This is trying to say in this article that, the protesters don't need to protest. It's that first line there, this right here. That the Trucker Alliance has estimated that 85% of Canadians, 120,000 truckers, were vaccinated. So the other workers basically don't matter, and the other people in Canada and the othering of people. This was an easy way, folks. I think there's more to it, but this was essentially an easy way for them to create a division. They knew who would fall in line, same with masks, and for them to pick out political opposition. Can't look the other way. Transport Minister of hateful symbol at trucker protest. January 30th. Where's my hateful symbol at? Oh, it doesn't exist. Only DH News apparently can get a hold of this hateful symbol, and I'm not convinced that it's from the trucker protest because I don't see a freaking truck in the picture. I think that's from last year or 2 years ago even. I think that I'll get down to the bottom of it and I'll find the origin of that picture at some point. That's a stock photo, though. That isn't current. I almost guarantee it, because it would be in every news outlet otherwise. All right, well, apparently that wants me to do something. Here was a Orangeville Citizen. This was a just regular article, as far as I could tell. It's good to go. But in comparison to the negative articles that claim things extraordinary without evidence. And then let's not forget this from the Federalist. Why aren't corporate media talking about the car that crashed in the Freedom Convoy? Forget about it already? I'll tell you why. Because the leftists did it. That's why. So that's it for today, guys. I'm going to have to get out of here. I might have had... Yeah, I have Australians join global anti-mandate. I had way more articles, but just couldn't get them all together in time. And that's okay. We'll live. I should be back on Wednesday, guys, as usual, on AllMinusOne, and next Sunday. Like I said, I forgot that this Sunday was Super Bowl. I never know when these things are coming. I don't operate that way. I'm the worst when it comes to scheduling. I wish I had my own personal assistant. You can't make your wife a personal assistant, guys, unless she's already of that nature. That's a bad idea, generally. If I ever have two recommendations about relationships, it's that. Your wife's not your assistant or your maid or any of that kind of stuff. And also, you can't train them. Don't ever train your loved one, your significant other. It's not good. Very few people can do that, and they take it too personally when you're trying to be professional, even depending, and they get mad and they get mad at you and whatever. I've seen it a lot. I've experienced it. It's not something you should do. In any case, guys, I'm not going to catch up and chat or anything. I need to get out of here because I'm going to have people coming over soon. But I appreciate it. Anti-Commie, thank you for the donations, buddy. Should be back next week. Hopefully I'll be more organized because I'll have at least some more time to get organized than this week. And that's about it, guys. I love you all. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit that like button. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And share it out. If you think I do a good job or a decent job, or you think someone might, listen to what I have to say, or you think they might enjoy my perspectives, then share me out, because that's how I'm going to grow. I don't have time, and I don't have the energy to put in effort in the background to say, try and mess with algorithms and do this and that and whatever else. And YouTube isn't meant for new creators to grow. And mind you, I know there are other platforms. I'll be working on those. I was not able to this week. Just like I said, worked a ton this week. So with that, guys, please share me out if you can. You tweet it out, your Facebooks or whatever. Show it to a friend. Again, this is a thing where I want to grow communities. I want to do more than just sit here and talk into a screen, but it has to start somewhere, and it has to start with it just being like, hey, I am reaching out. I'm making connections, and I've done that. But I'm a one-man show, and I have other priorities and responsibilities, and I'm old. I'm really old. I'll be 41 in a couple days, man. But you guys are the ones that will help me grow, and my big number is just 1,000. Like, once I get there, it just gives me some more legitimacy. YouTube has some options I can do. Maybe I can grow big time on Rumble or Odyssey if I can, get them things up and running. But again, it's all the background stuff that people try to do that just won't have to get themselves bumped up or trying to make viral videos. I'm not going to do that. It's not my nature. And I would do that a million times over and it would never work. Now, my Dystopia Now channel, if I ever get to that might produce something like that. But that kind of got sidetracked when my daughter started crawling everywhere. And, what do you do? What do you do? You expect her now to start crawling. That would have been great. I'd have had like 3 more months of time to do stuff, but is what it is. And in any case, guys, I love you all. Thanks for being here. This has been AllMinusOne. My name is Bill, and I wish you all well.